All right, here is our last lesson of the unit. We're going to learn to solve whole number division equations. So this is our last time. Again, same goal. We're just changing the one word. Here's your warm-up for today. Let's take the things that you've learned so far, how to do adding, subtracting, and multiplying, and see if you can solve these equations. Remember to do what you do to one side, you have to do the other, and what you're doing is the inverse operation. Come back when you got the answers. Hope you got these right. Number one, number two, they're both multiplications, so the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I got 4 and 12. For number 3, we're looking at a subtraction problem. The inverse is adding, so I added 4 to both sides. Got 22. And for number 4, I saw we were adding, so we had to subtract. Now, how did I check to make sure my numbers are right? I plugged them back into the original equation where the variable was shown, and I got the right answers. I hope you did that too before moving on to see if you got them right or not. Cool. Let's get into today's looking at dividing, the only one we haven't done yet. All right, let's start with scuba diving. Scuba diving. So recreational scuba divers go as deep as 130 feet underwater. That's the equivalent of a 13-story building. At this depth, the pressure on a diver is much greater than the water's surface, which means you can feel the pressure of the water around you. Water pressure can be described using equations. So remember that multiplying and dividing are the inverse operations. So to undo these problems today of dividing, you're going to have to multiply. Let's talk about what that actually looks like when you're looking at a division problem. Here's our first one. Now, as you can see here, we're looking at an equation that says x divided by 7. It's not a fraction, it's division. X divided by 7 equals 5. Well, we know with dividing that x has to be a larger value if we're going to get a positive answer or any answer that's not a decimal or something on the other side. So here we're looking at division. So the inverse of dividing is going to be multiplying. But you have to multiply by the whole number, or multiply the whole number being the number that is the same in the divisor spot, or the denominator spot, the bottom number. So here you can see that we chose 7 because we see 7 here. So when you do 7 times 7, and it's basically 7 over 1 times 1 over 7, it's called a reciprocal, these cancel each other out. They're gone. So now we're just left with x. What you do to one side, though, remember you have to do to the other. So that's why we have 7 times 5, which is 35. Now again, how can we check our work? Plug and chug it. Put 35 in for x, and you'll see that when you do divide 7 into 35, it goes in 5 times. So this is correct. Using inverse operation, again, division looks like a fraction, but it's not a fraction, it's dividing. Let's look at another one. So here we have 13 equals p divided by 6. So the first thing we have to do is figure out what are we going to multiply p divided by 6 by? Well, we're going to multiply, p is divided by 6, so that means that we're going to have to multiply 6 here. And what we do to one side, we got to do to the other. So these cancel out, and now we're just left with p. And 6 times 13, that gives you 78. So our answer is 78, and again, how can we check? Plug 78 in for p, and you should be able to get 13, which you do. So I don't care which one of the two we just went through you write in your notes, or if you want to write both, but I am going to be looking to see you have at least one practice problem written down. Again, I'm not worried about all the stuff on the side in blue. Those are more notes as we go through and that you can read as we're watching the video. I just want to see the practice problems on the side. All right, I have 8 problems for you to solve. Remember, all of these are using the inverse of dividing. So you're multiplying the number that is in the denominator to both sides. And by doing that, you're canceling out and just leaving the variable alone. Come back when you have all 8 done. Here are the answers you should have received. For number 1, y equals 12. Number 2, z equals 28. Number 3, r equals 63. Number 4 we'll come back to. Number 5, j equaled 36. X equaled 45 for number 6. Number 7, f equaled 12. And number 8, g equals 2. Now the reason why I want to go through number 4 again is you probably saw that you did it, or you should have done it this way. You're multiplying both sides by 10. Well, that leaves you with s, but on the other side, you're multiplying 10 by 4/40ths. So the way I wrote it down here is I wrote 10 over 1. Every whole number has a denominator of 1, because how many 10s are there? There's 10 10s. So to multiply this, you should remember how to multiply fractions. You just have to multiply across. 4 times 10 is 40, and 40 times 1 is 40. And you know that 40/40ths, when the numerator and the denominator are the same, you can simplify it to 1. That's why you got 1 for number 4. It was a tricky one. It won't be the last time you see problems like that. I like that that was thrown in there for you. So hopefully you did well on those. So let's look at another word problem. At Elk Meadows Park, an aspen tree is 1/3 the height of a pine tree. So basically what we're seeing here is the height of an aspen equals the height of the pine divided by 3, since it's 3 times. So to be able to find the height, all you have to do is multiply the tree that's 14 feet tall by 3. And when you do that, 3 times 14 would give you your answer. And that's how we, I'll have to move the box again. That's how we come up with the answer of 42 feet tall. So you have to multiply both sides by 3 to get h alone. And 3 times 14 gives you 42. So have this example down, just the bottom part. You don't have to write the whole question. Have this example down before moving on. All right, here's your division problem, and I'm going to help you out a little bit by writing out the equation before you start this. If you don't want that help, go ahead and start working on the problem now. That's okay. So Irene mowed the lawn and planted flowers. The amount of time she spent mowing the lawn was 1/3 the amount of time it took her to plant flowers. So it took her 30 minutes to mow the lawn. Find the amount of time Irene spent planting the flowers. So in this case, we're looking to be able to solve for the amount of time Irene spent. So for this one, we don't know exactly the amount of time Irene spent planting flowers, but we do know that it took her 30 minutes to mow the lawn. So really what we're looking at is n over 3 for the 1/3 time equals 30 minutes. So to be able to solve this, all you got to do is use this equation. Come back when you've solved it. All right, you should have seen that your answer should be 90 minutes because you got to multiply both sides by 3 to be able to solve that. All right, we're going to start with the box of thought with a question that you've seen now 4 times. Tell whether the solution of c divided by is equal to 70. Will that be less than 70 or greater than 70? For the second one, describe how you would check your answer for anything. It doesn't have to be just example 2. It can be any problem. How do you check your work? And then tell me why 13 times x divided by 13 equals x. Give a shot at that one. You should be able to see it. The hint is question 4 from practice 1. That helps you to try to figure out this. And here's your quiz. You got 5 questions. Take your time, do your best. Remember inverse operation and showing your work, and then bring it to me when you're done. And that's our lesson for today. Last one of the unit. Next up is your lesson quiz, or your half or second half quiz. Then your review and test. Good job. Use what you've learned here on your quiz and test to show that you really understand this stuff.